We're all three big, huge fans of the Premier League. We all follow it extremely closely through. Hey, Post Edit Zach here. We're about to dive into these Premier League awards, but first, how about you drop a subscribe on our channel? It's non-negotiable, so I'll wait. Go ahead. Yep, you can do it. There we go. Thanks. Enjoy the video. Yeah, so this one we kind of all agreed upon. Erling Haaland as the MVP. I mean, DJ, kick us off. What more can be said about him?
I mean, there's not much that needs to be said. He's a robot. The man was literally built to be on this earth to kick a football in the back of the net very well. Probably at the best. I mean, I really do think that he could challenge for being in the top 5 of the best football players of all time when it's all said and done. That's very high praise for such a young player. But the man is just on a rocket ship of a start, especially in one of the top leagues. It helps when you're surrounded by great talent, but I mean, you still got to finish, and the man just knows how to finish around the net.
Absolutely, and people can get onto him and say he's kind of a one-trick pony. All he does is score, and in my mind, the game of soccer is all about scoring. So I don't think that's such a bad one trick to have, is just score goals. I mean, first season in the Prem, breaks the record, all-time leading goal scorer, easy MVP. I mean, goodness. And to your point, DJ, he has everything in the makings to become one of the GOATs. I mean, if this is his early trajectory, he's young, he's only getting better. You see people join City, it takes them 2-3 seasons to get ramped up because Pep plays a very certain way. This is the kid's first season under Pep. I mean, it's only going to get better. We see Grealish finally emerging as a creative player that can be servicing him. Then we had a lot of rotation in the midfield between Gundo and KDB, Silva and Mahrez on the right wing, swapping shifts, Foden in there. So even the supporting role was switching all around Haaland the whole season, and he was having to adjust game to game on how they were playing, and he's still banging 50 goals in. I mean, this is going to be a fun player to watch.
Yeah, it was a magical season for him. I think the biggest point, and you touched on it, Jake, is this is his first season in the Prem. We've seen so many players come to the Premier League, and it takes them so long to get adjusted, and some don't even do well. There were questions coming into the league, if coming from the Bundesliga, that he would even be able to adjust, that he would even be successful in the league, and then he goes out and breaks the Premier League goal scoring record in his first season. That's unheard of. That's Will Chamberlain scoring 100 points. That's, Tiger Woods winning the Open by 14 strokes. It was insane to watch, and there's just no stopping him. It looks like they're going to get the treble, as DJ predicted 3 weeks ago. So, man, there's no, I can't even make an argument for anyone else being MVP. I mean, if he wasn't a thing, I guess you could say Kane, because Tottenham struggled so much, and if Kane wasn't there, they would be right down there with Chelsea in the relegation contention. So it's maybe him, but
he's honorable mention. I see Martin Odegaard. He could be an honorable mention. What he did as a creative outlet for Arsenal. I don't think KDB has his shout, but those three breadcrumbs compared to Erling Haaland this season,
especially this year.
No doubt,
especially this year.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what he follows up this with, if he can potentially break his own record next year. Well, I don't know. We'll see. But all right, that's our most valuable player. We're gonna head into our most improved player. So me and Jake agreed upon Martinelli as our most improved player. DJ with Saliba as his. DJ, you want to talk a little bit about your most improved player?
So, I don't hate either of these options because it's my favorite team. But for Saliba, the guy was on loan last year at OM, and everybody talked about all the steps he was making, but it's kind of hard to trust playing well in the French league, which we call a farmers league. It's not beat around the bush. All of us think it's a farmers league. So him coming up to the Prem and then it taking one game to show, hey, this guy's got what it takes to do it up here. And he played very well this year. He was pretty much the biggest anchor on our defense, very consistent. And then you saw what happened at the end of the year when we bottled the league. It's hard to say it, but we did. We bottled the league, and he was out. Our defense absolutely crumbled, and I think it's because this guy took the steps and showed how good of a player he is. Just his quality was fantastic, and I really didn't see him make any big mistakes. He was good with the ball. He didn't try to do anything too fancy, which is what you want in the center back. And he's young and he's smart and he's athletic and he's big, and that's what you need in the Prem. It's all that combined together.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, an argument for him as most improved player is definitely warranted because of how much Arsenal kind of fell off there at the end without him. Like, he was very important to their defense, it seemed, because of they just looked so different on defense after he was injured, and that's in a large part what cost them the league. I think is just their play during the end stretch of the season. So definitely a good call in Saliba. I've got Martinelli, just from a stance of improvement. I mean, the 2 seasons ago, Martinelli was a sub on for Arsenal near the end of games. He had, I think, like 4 or 5 goals.
I actually have his stats. 2 goals.
Oh, that's
1 assist.
2 goals, 1 assist 2 years ago. Yeah. Yeah, so the improvement that he made, in my eyes, going from a late sub, just like rest to Smith Rowe on that left side, to one of the premier wingers in the Premier League, was an insane amount of improvement that I saw from him. And I mean, honorable mention to both Arsenal wingers, honestly. Saka likewise could be in this discussion.
I can't even call it improved. Yeah, he's just been doing it for seasons now.
He's been consistent.
Yeah, for sure. So I got Martinelli. Or Jake, you also had Martinelli. You want to talk about him for a second?
It's got to be. You hit all the big points, but yeah, just to break it down in numbers: 2 seasons ago, 2 goals, 1 assist. Last season, 6 goals, 6 assists. This season, 15 goals, 5 assists. 20 contributions in the Premier League, more than any other left wing player. And he's so direct. He beats his player 1v1. He's fast as lightning. He makes good decisions. He's finding passes in the middle frequently. I mean, he was really making that offense tick. I think that a lot of defensive game plans wrapped around trying to keep Saka quiet, even keep Gabriel quiet, and Martinelli just kind of outshone everyone this season, in my opinion, attack-wise. I really think he was an important cog that was kind of an X factor on allowing Arsenal to have such a rapid counterattack, and they're hurting people all season with that. So just going from being ineffective, like you said, a super sub, not even getting real minutes, to really making that offense potent has to be.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm just trying to think in my head of any other player that went from a sub the year before to now this year just being a absolute star, like top 10 attacking player in the Premier League. I can't think of any other player that improved that drastically over a season. So
imagine trading this guy in fantasy.
Yeah, exactly. Who could do that?
I don't know. You want to talk about it?
No, maybe not. All right, on to our manager of the year. I've got De Zerbi, DJ with Pep, Jake with Ten Hag. So this one, we all had 3 different managers of the year. So we can kind of, have a little bit of debate, of which, sorry, I'm saying a lot. Manager of the year is the manager of the year. DJ, you've got Pep. He obviously won the Premier League. Why do you have him?
I mean, you kind of just took my argument away. He won the league. Man City is Man City. He's been one of the top quality managers for years now. The fact that he has a chance to win a treble now too, which is not easy to do, I think that ends the discussion right there, in my opinion. It's you win a treble, you're the manager of the world that year. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, well, this is our Premier League Manager of the Year, though.
It still comes into fact. You're still playing. You have to play it during the Premier League season, which means you have to rotate squads. Thanks for helping me prove my point even more. I mean, look at this. Thanks, Zach.
I'm just trying to be a good teammate, man.
Yeah, man. Yeah. I mean, this guy, he does do some things that are a little off that you wouldn't. It doesn't make a lot of sense from people that are standing outside the locker room, not understanding what his tactic is or why he's subbing off players or rotating the squad so much. But it's obviously working. He hasn't really. Man City has always been there, either winning the league or second.
Yeah, I'd say my one counterpoint I want to hear you talk on is it's the squad. He has all the oil money in the world. He's put together a team of top talent. Wouldn't it be just really sad if a manager couldn't claim a Premier League title with a squad like that?
Yes, which means there's more expectations, which means there's more pressure to do that, which means he could just bottle it or crack under the pressure, and he hasn't. So I feel like it just shows that with all that talent, you still could not win the league. I mean, Liverpool could have just taken over the last couple of years. Now Liverpool haven't played great the last 2 years either. But I'm just saying, like an example, like it could have been another team that just came out of nowhere and just took over the league. Like Arsenal could have just came in and won it, but he kept his team to the ground, kept playing well, kept doing his thing. Don't question anything. Let's just push it and be Man City and not look outside on that pressure. Don't read the newspaper. He gets it very bottled in, and that's another reason why I think he's a great manager, because he doesn't let the pressure of the money, of the talent, of the expectations get to him.
Yeah, those are great points. I mean, you win the league, it's hard to argue against the manager who won the league. So
But
that's fair.
That's a good point, though, Jake. Like I agree with you. Like that is like yes, this talent is ridiculous. It looks like a FIFA, like someone went on FIFA and just transferred all the best players to his one team, like a little kid. Like back when I played Madden in the old days, just play all the best players on one team and play the game. That's what it looks like. But I mean, he's doing it, and he's doing it well, and he's done it well.
Yeah, and I mean, no disrespect to Pep. I mean, he's arguably one of the greatest managers of all time. He's influential with the way the game's played. And, yeah, he has a great team, but obviously his tactics are sublime, and just what he does year in, year out is insane. So no disrespect to him. But I do think it is, it's tough when you become the best manager that the best teams want you, and then you're managing the best players, and it's hard to distinguish. And I guess Zach has kind of a manager that he's going to make a very different case for their team finished sixth. So I'm curious, Zach, how do you think the manager who finished sixth is the manager of the year?
Well,
hold
funny
my
you
beer,
should,
I got
funny
you.
you should mention that. I've got De Zerbi. So obviously, not even a team that finished, as Jake mentioned, in a Champions League spot in the top 5.
What team is that, though?
Brighton.
There you go.
Yes, Brighton. And I think that the team quality, honestly, is the biggest argument for De Zerbi as manager of the year. What he was able to get out of this team without having any standout performer. I mean, like, ask yourself, who like carried this team to, who gave them success as a individual performer to the levels of like what Haaland was or KDB. There's not really anyone on this team that you could point to and say, they carried the team. I mean, maybe McAllister, he had a great season, but not even to the degree of which, like what a Haaland did for City. And I think that truly his tactics are what led Brighton to be as overachieving as they were. And I say overachieving just because I don't think anyone would have predicted them to finish top 6, to have as many goals this season as they did. They were known a little bit last season as being kind of more of a defensive juggernaut, to beating teams, 1-1, or that's a tie. Beating teams 1-0, beating teams 2-0.
Oh, that's right. You do ties here.
Yeah. I mean, I've got De Zerbi. I obviously would listen to arguments about other managers. Speaking of which, Jake, you've got Ten Hag. What's your
around the old ETH?
Yeah, let me hear it.
To a super dysfunctional United, and it's not like they've just been dysfunctional for a season or two. They haven't been the same United since Sir Alex Ferguson left. What was that, like 2013, 2014? It's been a pain to watch this team. A lot of sideways passing, a lot of negative football. Doesn't get the fans on the feet. You haven't seen a happy United fan in almost 10 years. Then you get ETH coming in, bringing in really direct tactics that he was playing at Ajax. And not only that, but he sorted out the dressing room. He benched Maguire. He benched Ronaldo. He wanted players that are going to work for the badge. He wanted players that were going to play a smart attacking style of play that he was instilling in the club. And he's overhauling it. You can tell quickly that this is a complete different Manchester United than we've seen before. The talent pool really hasn't grown too much. Defensive-wise, he had to make some adjustments. And even towards the end of the season, he had Lindelof starting that 11. I mean, that is not strong. He had injury issues. He had a really smart signing with Casemiro, who did a lot for strengthening the backbone of the team, which is just another tout to him making great signings already and bringing Antony in from the Dutch league. I don't know. He's really impressed me creating a strong United. To think Manchester United finished third this season in the Premier League, and a convincing third at that, is just really impressive to me. So it's not that he achieved too much, which, to be fair, they won the Carabao Cup. And that's bringing a trophy to the cabinet for United. He got him to the FA Cup, and he finished in third in the Premier League, secured Champions League football. I think that's a gigantic achievement in the man's first season with this program. And it's not a fluke. You know, I'm looking forward to see what this team's going to do next season under him when he gets a full summer transfer window. He has his identity out there. People want to play for a manager like that. He's really going to turn United around. So he gets my vote.
So I have a question, though. Since you had to not really counterpoint, because I don't disagree with anything you just said. What do you say to the people that say the only reason why United got top four is because Liverpool stunk really badly to begin, and then Tottenham were with the way that Tottenham were, and Chelsea were the way that Chelsea were? What do you say to that? Do you think that's because of that, or do you think Ten Hag would have had them in the top four?
Yeah, I think that, I mean, yeah, he beat Tottenham, he beat Liverpool. You know, you can't slight a manager because other teams didn't function properly. I think head to head, you saw him go toe to toe with Man City in the FA Cup, going after a trophy, going against one of the best teams in the world, and they put on a proper display. Gundogan had two insane volleys that gave him a win, but it was really head-to-head play, attacking play, and I think that style of play is going to beat any team on any given day. So I think that they're there to compete, and I think that they earned third place.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, I knew that Ten Hag was for real whenever he benched Ronaldo. Like, it takes some to bench an all-timer like Ronaldo. So whenever I saw that, I mean, it was obvious he was really bringing the team down. And when he benched him, they really all seemed to just gang up and be more of a team around Ten Hag and listen to his system. And that's when they started to really have some success. So that's a great addition to Manager of the Year, Ten Hag. Can't argue with that. What we got next? All right. Biggest surprise, good team. I'll go ahead and kick this one off because I know I'm going to catch a lot of flack for having Arsenal on there from DJ, being an Arsenal fan.
But what if I agree?
I mean, even I don't know. Let's see if you do. So I went back and looked at the odds for Premier League winner coming into this season. And Arsenal were 6th. They were 6th to win the Premier League. And they ended up contending to win the Premier League for about 90% of the season. They were, if not in first, just contending to win it with I mean, Man City's about to win the Champions League, so I'll say it. The best team in the world. They were contending with the best team in the world to win the league that they were in for large majority of the season. When coming in, they were predicted to be sixth. So I don't think it's that outlandish to say that they were a surprise good team because they reached heights that I don't think anyone could have thought that they were going to be.
I don't disagree with that. And as an Arsenal fan, all I wanted was Champions League this year. I didn't even think that winning a title was really in the cards just yet because we've talked about some of the young talent that they have. I think they needed a little bit more seasoning, and I think the end of the season showed that this year that they weren't prepared mentally for finishing. And I think that's going to change in the future. But I don't hate this, and I'm not going to argue that because honestly, we've been in some sticky situations recently with the last couple of years of starting off slow, starting off less than what Arsenal fans and the team expect. So the fact that this year that we came out as high as we did and we stayed as high as we did, it was very surprising. It was honestly exhilarating because it's just like, oh my God, do we have a chance? But we came back down to earth, and our youth showed. But I don't hate this. I'm not going to give you crap for it. You know, I really
I might disagree. I might say that they weren't a surprising good team. I think that's wrong to say. I think they were a surprising great team. And I think that's what the difference is that they weren't just a good team this season. You know, these other two up here, they're good teams. Arsenal were truly world class. I mean, they looked unplayable in a lot of the times throughout the season. They had key injuries, not a lot of depth. I think they expected this type of contention this season, so it surprised them when they're in that battle. But they were just such a great team this season. One of the most entertaining teams to watch. Yeah, they blew me away. 6, that would have made sense. They've kind of been struggling. I guess Arteta's turned it around, but yeah, definitely deserve their spot.
Yeah, for sure. DJ, you got Brighton in there. Talk to me about Brighton.
You hit some points already. This team went from a very big defensive team, win games 1-0, just grit and grind it out to kind of being an entertaining and high scoring team. You see this team that honestly them breaking to the top 10 was a surprise, but now they're in Europa. They got 6th. I think that was a big surprise for me. I don't think anybody could have suggested. You said this earlier. No one could have foresaw that. This team is not that far away from being promoted and then fighting off relegation constantly. So where they were to where they are now, it's massive surprise. I know their fans are overjoyed with where they're at, and honestly, it's going to be fun to see what they can do if they can bring in some depth to help them survive Europa and how far they can make it in Europa. It's going to be exciting.
Yeah, I like this Brighton team going forward. I'm a big fan of Evan Ferguson. I think he's going to be I hope that they can keep him because I think he's going to be a great striker option for the next foreseeable future. So, yeah.
I'm afraid what's going to happen this transfer window, Brighton's going to get rid of, as you said, so much emerging talent. Just seeing what they can hold on to now, they can take into the next season. I'm hoping for them, but yeah, it's going to be a tough window. They've already lost McAllister, and a few other players are in target sight for other big clubs.
Colwell,
so,
yeah.
Sanchez is leaving. Or wants to leave. I don't know if he's actually left yet.
I think he's definitely going to leave after he lost his spot as a starter.
6 was huge for him, and I'll say right behind 6 is 7th, and that's right where Aston Villa landed. And they surprised me. They started out under Steven Gerrard. I think they, in the first 5 matches, only won once, lost 4, and they looked like early relegation contenders. I've written them off. They couldn't attack. They couldn't defend. Nothing was working. It looked hopeless. Unai Emery gets appointed. They clean house. They get Danny Ings out of there. They make Ollie Watkins their main striker. Dude banged in, I think, 15 goals this season. The next highest goal scorer, I think, at 4 or 5. So they just really sharpened that attack towards him. Emery really solidified that defense, and kind of like United, the swing of momentum. It didn't seem fluky. Once he got in there, they started to buy into the way he played. That defense firmed up. the attack started gelling, and they were 3-0 and 4-0 teams, and that's something I would have never expected out of this squad at the start of the season. So they shocked me.
They were pounding people. Like, they were easily
They were.
beating teams near the end of the season.
They were.
Yeah.
And also
you know,
go ahead, sorry.
I was saying, it's not like they have any star talent on their team at that point. You know, you have Bundia, who's kind of their creative outlet, John McGinn, who's kind of their workhorse, Ollie Watkins, who's on and off with his finishing abilities, but it all just came together at the end. That looks like they're all encouraged. They're believing with their manager's tactics. They're buying into it. And, yeah, they finished super strong.
So I went and looked at the stats. The next highest goal scorer was the center defensive mid in Douglas Luiz, who had 6.
I was going to say, Douglas Luiz was banging in goals left and right at the end of the season.
He scored off a corner twice this year, I think.
They put it in twice from a corner flag, man.
Yeah, that's
goofy.
ridiculous. And the other who tied for him on goal scoring was another center defensive mid with Jacob Ramsey, who's also their leading assister. So they didn't have a lot of scoring up top until Ollie Watkins took over. So that's a good call out, honestly.
Yeah, for sure. They are definitely, as for me, one of the most surprising teams, no doubt. Let's move right along. We had our surprising good team. Now we're moving on to our surprising bad team. Surprisingly, we only have one relegation team in our surprising bad teams. But I think the other two are warranted. I think we talked about Chelsea on the pod last week quite a bit.
I don't need to say much. The amount of money they spent. Good Lord. And the amount of talent they have. Good Lord. Ugh.
Yeah.
That's all I need to say.
Yeah.
That's all I need to say.
I concur. Chelsea is right up there as one of the most surprising bad teams, just because of the prestige that the club has. The way that they kind of just never really hit a stride the entire season. Like, I can't point to a stretch of games throughout the entire season where I was like, wow, Chelsea looks like they're turning it around. Like, they're going to be decent. No, like the whole entire season they just underperformed to their standards. So can't disagree with that one. Jake, you've got the Hammers on there. Tell me about them.
Yeah, maybe it shouldn't surprise me for them to finish lower middle of the table. I feel like that's almost their home. They kind of sit around that midpoint, but just coming off the back of a huge season with a lot of offensive firepower, a lot of fun attacking play through Gerard Bowen, Ben Rama, Fornals, Antonio whenever he's fit. They were a pretty fun squad to watch last season. So for them to come in the league and just flounder under David Moyes, same manager, same players, and they came out so flat. They had not a clue what they were doing, had no identity, and, when they kind of rebounded, it was very obvious that they put all their chips in to Europe, and coincidentally, they go off and win the trophy today. So thankfully, this is just for the Premier League awards. Because, it seems like they put all their focus on that. I think it's really interesting how Saad Ben Rama seemed to be one of the most creative players. I don't know if there's tension with him and the staff because he had a hard time finding his way into the lineup. When he played, they looked better. He rarely played. I just question a lot of the decisions what Moyes was doing this season with them. And, just was not the team they were the season before. So I had to throw them up on this list.
Yeah, no doubt. If we gave an award for most surprising manager to keep his job, I think that David Moyes would be the one, because I thought he was going to be sacked.
I still think he needs to be sacked. Like, regardless, do you win Conference League? Get him out of there. It's not working.
Yeah, I can't believe he still is their manager, to be completely honest. But we'll see how they do next year. I think that they'll put a lot more focus on the Premier League instead of Europe, and I think that they need to make some big signings, or we could see them right here in the relegation battle once again.
So that's kind of the soul of the team, is their world-class center defensive midfielder making it all happen. So they're going to have a lot of questions to answer next season.
Trade your hammer for a gun. Give him the gun, the Gunners. Come on, I want Declan Rice. I'm okay with this.
Oh man, we're gonna have a lot of angry Hammer fans on our in our comments this week.
West Ham, why are you in the South? It makes no sense.
All right, I had Leicester City on there, and this is just from the stance of I'm really surprised that they got relegated. They were one of the teams in the Premier League that I thought they were just a mainstay at this point. I thought that, they were just like, like a Chelsea, like a West Ham, just like maybe not Chelsea. Chelsea's a little bit more prestigious, but like Aston Villa, like one of these teams that it's like, okay, they're just going to be in the league. And then for them to get relegated and for them to look as bad as they did doing it was very surprising to me. And it's looking like, it's not as bad them getting relegated as Everton, just because Everton's financial situation, if they would have gotten relegated, was going to be tough. So not as bad for Leicester. They're going to lose some players. They're going to make some money in this dropping back down. I think they're going to be right back up. But as far as this season, one of the more surprising bad teams for me.
Yeah, it's shocking. I mean, I feel like they've always played a style of just outscore the opponent. And I think this season they just kind of went quiet on goals. Jamie Vardy aged. Daka and Iheanacho weren't filling in the shoes the way they needed to. Harvey Barnes had some injury issues. James Maddison had injury issues. Yuri Tielemans had injury issues. And they just kept Brendan Rodgers along way too long. Needed to act some sooner. Needed something to change. The writing was on the wall. I feel like a third of the way through the season, and they didn't do anything about it until maybe 8-9 match weeks left. So it was tough to watch, but yeah, it surprised me too. They're one of my favorite teams of the last 5 years to watch.
Also, Wilfred Ndidi was also hurt most of the year too. That's another quality player that I feel like I forgot about there for a little bit. And also to add on to that, yes, their attack went away, but they never really never really got the answer for losing Schmeichel at goal. That I think that really hurt, and it showed because of just the quality of their defense was not playing it at all.
That's a good shout.
Schmeichel, I feel like I underrated Schmeichel more than I. Looking at what happened to Leicester after this year, man, did they struggle without him. And I need to give Schmeichel more credit for being a better goaltender than I previously thought maybe he was at this point in his career.
Yeah, their defense looked lost with him. He was a very, very big vocal person on that back line for the past several years, and they really struggled with Ward and with Iverson. Is that how you pronounce it? Iverson, like Allen Iverson. Yeah, with him in there. So, yeah, definitely one of the more surprising bad teams. Leicester City, good luck in the championship. All right, right along to our biggest surprise, great player. And DJ's laughing.
This is where Nick Carini turns off the podcast.
Yeah.
So, Jake, you better take off.
Natoma is on the screen.
I've been waiting for this moment.
So, sidebar for our listeners, Jake is a big fan of Mitoma. And not surprising at all to us that he is his biggest surprise, great player. But, Jake, let's hear it. Explain it to our listeners why you're such a big fan of this guy.
I'll be more than happy to open it up. I'm a connoisseur of inverted wingers. It's the position I love most. It's such a fun position to watch. It's what creates entertainment. It's what draws people close to the TV screen. Is a really good inverted winger. What that means is that you play on the side of the field that is not your dominant foot. So Mitoma, he's right-footed. He plays on the left wing. And what that allows him to do is cut inside. He can shoot. He can pass. He can create. Or he can beat his defender down the line. And I'm telling you right now, no one's doing it better than Mitoma right now. He is a live wire. He is exactly what the Zerbi ball needs. They thrive in what they force counterattack. So they draw teams into their own half, and then they transition and try to hit people on the counter. And what Mitoma is allowing them to do is they can get it to their midfielder, who then sends it out to the side. Mitoma is beating people one-on-one, doesn't matter who, for fun. He wrote his thesis in dribbling, and it shows. The kid knows how to get past people. And he creates moments of magic. He's cut in a couple times, scored some bangers. I mean, there's very few people in the league that are as fun to watch as this guy right now. And let me tell you this, where was he last season? No one knew about him. He's in his mid-20s, I think 26 maybe, so he's not young. He's not a young player. He's just emerged out of nowhere. He got overlooked by the Japan World Cup squad, who's on the bench for that. And whenever they sold off Trossard, he came in the left wing and he revolutionized what that attack was doing. I mean, come on. It's Mitoma. It's got to be the surprise player of the year, guys.
That's a good shout, honestly. It is.
There were fewer players. There were few players that were better than him in the second half of the season, for sure. Post World Cup, Mitoma was absolutely elite.
A different animal.
Whenever Potter left and De Zerbi came in, it feels like De Zerbi really saw it in Mitoma and was instrumental in the Trossard selling, because it looked like he could tell that he really had something here, and he was right.
And it's not a fluke, too. Watch him game in, game out. Everything is so technical and so intentional. He's going to be doing it again next season, so keep an eye out on him.
For sure, will do. I've got Saka as my surprise great player, and this one, I guess it could be a little bit of debatable as to why he's surprise great player, but this is kind of goes hand in hand with my Arsenal argument, and I think this may fit better because it says great player. I think for the past several years, Saka's been a good player. But this year, he was undoubtedly, it's him or Saka as best right wing in the Premier League. Salah, best right winger in the league this year. Him or Salah. And I think that coming into the year, if you said, hey, Saka for Arsenal is going to make you really consider who the best right winger in the Premier League is, I think people would have been laughing at you. And I think that's why I've got him as my best or my biggest surprise great player, just because of just how great he was this year. He looked just darn right unstoppable on the right wing in some games. During the beginning and the middle of the season, he was just on a tear. Like left backs wanted no part of him coming down that right wing. And he's my biggest surprise great player.
You kind of convinced me a little bit. I was going to roast you a little bit, but that argument actually made some sense. And I was like, oh, okay.
Respect.
Yeah, just give him my feelings, man.
Yeah, I feel it. It's right here in my heart. Mine is Ivan Toney, the Bees, Brentford Bees. This man I've been a fan of. Yeah. Not going to talk about him being pretty much suspended all year next year, which just, means that no one's going to realize how great he was this year because everybody's going to forget that. He goes from playing in the championship, getting the team promoted, and you always wonder, can you translate from the championship to the Prem? Last year, he played pretty good, 12 goals, but 5 assists, not a bad season. He jumped from 12 to 20 goals this year and had 4 assists. Dropped a little bit in assists, but the man was literally finishing anything that was around the net, and he probably could have scored more. There's a couple chances he did miss, but he went from... Honestly, I feel like people didn't really know about Ivan Toney this year until he started doing what he was doing this year. Like, the man has kind of turned himself into a perennial striker in the Premier League, in my opinion. I think he could go anywhere in the Prem and succeed, because the man is just what we were talking about earlier. The game is scoring, and he can score, and he does very good at it, and he's good at the game of football, and it's exciting to watch him play. And I think he is a great player. He's my surprise great player.
I think that's fair. And, yeah, I love the way he plays striker. He's more of a hold-up striker. He's winning every first ball. As he finds the positions, he finds the pockets, and to your point, he just finishes everything. He was on fire this season, for sure.
He's shockingly bigger than people think. Like, he's a big dude.
He's huge,
like,
man.
If you watch a Brentford game, like, Ivan Toney's a large man. And, yeah,
he's
that's
my height, though.
Yeah. He's like, he just bodies people. So
and he's arguably the best penalty taker in the world. He's cold, man. Just stares a keeper down, sends it into a.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, no doubt, for sure. All right, so we did our biggest surprise great player. That means we are doing our biggest surprise bad player. And maybe bad player isn't
Bad season.
the
Underperformer.
term. Yeah, we'll say biggest surprise underperformer, because I don't think y'all's two players were bad. So, DJ, you've got Human Son on there. Explain that to me.
The only reason why I put him on this list, do not get me wrong, I still think Son has quality in him, and I still think he's going to be very good the next coming years, wherever he plays. If it's at Tottenham, if he decides to leave, I don't think he's going anywhere. He has so much loyalty to that team. But you go from tying Mo Salah for the Golden Boot to only banging in 10 goals this year. That is a disappointment only because of where you were last season. That's why I was to say he's a surprise bad. It was what Conte had him. He had Perisic for some reason going ahead of Son, and it kind of made Son disappear this year. And I feel like that was one of the main reasons why Tottenham struggled. Son kind of disappeared at the beginning of the year. So when you see a great player like that Son is kind of struggle or have a bad year, this is why it was a surprise for me.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
agree.
that's a good point. I think
people were claiming he deserved the Ballon d'Or. I mean, to go from that stature, that level, and then just to go missing, yeah, fair shout.
Yeah, I think that's the same but different argument that I made with Saka is like to go. Son was so great the year before, to go to just good was very surprising because it looked like he was so dominant the year before.
And honestly, he wasn't even good all year this year. It kind of was towards the end of the year, whenever Conte was finally out, that he finally started showing his quality again.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if he can take that momentum from the end of the season and bring it into next year. So I'm excited to see him play next year, because he is one of my favorite players to watch. I mean, he's such a likable guy. So
he's also one of my
looking forward
favorite
to it.
players, but he also plays for my biggest rival, and that's saying something.
Yeah, there you go. If you can like a player from your biggest rival, you know he's a likable guy. Jake, you've got Trent on there.
Yeah, so you were
me
trying to
about Trent.
sugarcoat it and say that only one player is bad on this list. Dude, Trent Alexander-Arnold was bad this year. He was bad. You watch the first, call it 3/4 of the season, he lost himself. He wasn't a defender. People were blowing past him every game. He was continually the reason Liverpool were losing, and his final ball wasn't there. He wasn't getting the ball in the way he needed to. He wasn't finding his assists. He was working too far up the field, not hustling back quick enough, and it shattered him, I think. I think he got in his head. Klopp started benching him. He didn't make the World Cup starting 11, I think, but one game. Trippier played ahead of him, and I think this hurt the guy's confidence. I think Klopp made a smart move and transitioned him from a defensive player to more of a pivot midfield player. And in the last 7-8 games, Trent came back to life and started showing his old class again. When he was in a different position, he was laying on assists nearly every match. He put in a firecracker of a shot. I mean, he found his form again. No denying that. But he was really bad. And that surprised me. And it wasn't like, oh, he was just playing good. I couldn't call many of his performances good this season. I could only call maybe 5, 6, 7, 8 of his performances good. Some great, but it shocked me. I mean, he was in the argument for the best right back in the world. And people were making that argument because they were able to look past his defensive mishaps. And he quickly, it made me question if he's even worth starting. I think everyone was questioning that at one point. So that's why he's on my list.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, he that's a good point. He's never been a great defender, but he's always had immaculate passing ability, always a great final ball. And for that to not even be there this season, combined with decreased defending ability, it seemed this year, was just hard to watch. And I think that's why you saw like one of the best right backs in the world, like you said, have such a bad season, and just not even be a factor there. And so that's a great point. I've got on here Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang for my surprise bad player. So, and I've got him in an Arsenal jersey.
You just did that to hurt me.
For no reason. So yeah, Aubameyang. He comes in to Chelsea, and I've got him on here as my surprise bad player. And people might say, like, there wasn't huge expectations for him. Like, he's a little bit older now. He's lost some of his quality. But 3 seasons ago, this guy was the leading goal scorer in the Premier League. I think that some people may forget that 3 seasons ago, this guy led all attackers in goals in the Premier League. And now to come back to the same league and to be on, I mean, just as good of a team, if you look at that, what the Arsenal team was at that point. And for him to just be, he was downright unplayable. Like, they could not play him. He was not.
They literally didn't play him.
Yeah, exactly. Like, he was unplayable and he didn't play. So I've got him as my surprise bad player just because, and it's not even that he wasn't scoring. Like, you could watch the games and he was just watching him out there on the pitch. Like, he's not the player that he was, and he just can't. Like, the Premier League is the best league in the world for a reason, and the league is just, it surpassed him to his ability at this point in his career. So
yeah, fair shot. I almost forgot about him.
TJ, your thoughts on that?
Yeah, when I saw you put him on this list, I forgot he played in the league this season. That's how forgettable he was. And
yeah,
there was hype of him coming into the season. It's like, oh, Aubameyang is back, right? And I don't think anyone was expecting a 20-plus goal season out of him. But you're playing for a Big Six club. They had good management. They had a good supporting team. You expect 10 goals. You expect, some goals.
Yeah,
I think you had,
a few.
1 or 2 maybe. Yeah.
I think he had one. I would have to fact check, but I think he had 1 goal.
I think it was 1 goal, and it wasn't even impressive. I think he just kind of bonked it in off his head from, like, right on the goal.
Yeah.
So, miserable season. I think that's a perfectly good, bad surprise player.
He did have 1 goal. And also a yellow card.
Yep.
1 for 1.
Same amount of goals as cards.
I didn't expect too much. Apparently, Chelsea still don't know what a striker is. They're still looking for one. And they put it on all the milk cartons in West London.
Yeah,
they still can't find one.
They're really seeking it out at this point.
They are. Yeah. Yeah, guys, strikers, please help.
Yeah.
Call this number.
They need to pick someone off the street like Jamie Vardy style. Just
Sunday
the
League.
nearest guy crushing a Red Bull and just put him in the team.
You.
Yeah. All right, so that is the Feelings Over Facts 2022-23 Premier League Seasonal Awards.